There's a part of you that you hide from the world. Maybe you don't talk about it, or maybe you even try to pretend it's not there. It's the part that holds your anger, your fears, your regrets, the things you've been told to bury deep inside. But what if I told you that this shadow, this so-called dark side, is actually the key to your growth, your freedom, and your peace? I know it might sound a little strange at first. After all, we're taught to focus on the light, to be positive, and to keep our heads high no matter what. But what happens when the parts of ourselves we push away start to push back? Maybe it comes out as stress, anxiety, or feeling stuck in life. Or maybe it shows up as overreacting to small things, feeling disconnected, or carrying a weight you can't explain. I've been there too. There was a time in my life when I thought I had to be perfect, always smiling, always calm. But the more I tried to hide my struggles, the more they controlled me. It wasn't until I faced my shadow that I started to feel whole. And that's exactly what I want to talk to you about today. This video isn't about fear, it's about courage. It's about showing you that the parts of yourself you fear the most are actually your greatest teachers. And by the end of this video, you'll have a whole new understanding of yourself and a path to move forward with strength and clarity. I'm Dante. Welcome to another episode of Inner Guided. Sometimes, the parts of ourselves we hide the most are the ones that need our attention the most. It's easy to ignore them, to push them aside and hope they'll disappear. But the truth is, those feelings and thoughts don't just go away. They linger beneath the surface, quietly shaping how we see ourselves and how we respond to the world around us. For years, I thought ignoring my fears and insecurities was the best way to move forward. I focused on staying positive and doing everything right. But over time, I noticed something strange. No matter how much I tried to stay in control, small things would set me off. A simple comment could make me feel insecure. A minor setback could leave me questioning everything. It was like there was another voice inside me, one I didn't want to hear, but it refused to be silent. That's when I realized something important. Those uncomfortable feelings weren't my enemies. They were signals. They were trying to tell me something, and the more I ignored them, the louder they got. It was in those moments that I started to really pay attention. Instead of pushing the feelings away, I let myself sit with them. And what I found was surprising. Those feelings weren't there to hurt me. They were there to protect me. My anger wasn't just anger. It was my way of defending myself when I felt unheard. My sadness wasn't just sadness. It was asking me to slow down and heal. My fear wasn't just fear. It was reminding me that I needed to trust myself more. This shift changed everything. Instead of fighting my emotions, I started learning from them. And little by little, the things that used to control me started to lose their power. I didn't feel as reactive. I didn't feel as stuck. I started to feel lighter, like I could breathe again. When we face our shadow, we're not just confronting the parts of ourselves we don't like. We're reclaiming the parts we've lost. We're taking back our power and learning to trust ourselves again. And that's where true freedom begins. There's something powerful that happens when you stop running from yourself. When you stop pretending that everything is fine and finally look at what's been hiding in the dark, you start to see patterns that have been shaping your life without you even realizing it. For me, one of the hardest truths to face was how much I had been blaming other people for the way I felt. If I was angry, it was because someone upset me. If I felt unappreciated, it was because someone wasn't giving me what I needed. It was always something outside of me. But the more I explored my shadow, the more I saw that these feelings had less to do with others and more to do with me. I started to notice how often I avoided setting boundaries because I was afraid of conflict, or how I stayed quiet in situations where I wanted to speak up because I didn't want to seem difficult. And then I'd feel frustrated or resentful afterward. It was a cycle, one that kept repeating itself until I finally asked, why am I afraid to take up space? That's when it hit me. A lot of the emotions I had been pushing away, things like anger, frustration, and even sadness, were there because I wasn't being honest with myself. I wasn't being honest about what I needed or what I truly wanted. And that dishonesty wasn't just affecting me. It was affecting my relationships, my work, and how I showed up in the world. So I started practicing something that felt uncomfortable at first, telling the truth, not just to others, but to myself. I started asking questions like, what am I really feeling right now? And what do I actually need in this moment? And the more I practiced, the more I noticed something incredible. Instead of feeling weak or exposed, I started to feel strong. I started to feel clear. I wasn't walking around carrying unspoken resentment or pretending to be okay when I wasn't. I was being real, and that realness opened the door to deeper connections and more meaningful conversations. Facing your shadow doesn't mean you'll never feel uncomfortable again, but it does mean you'll stop running from yourself. And when you stop running, you give yourself the chance to heal, to grow, and to create a life that feels honest and true. One of the most surprising things about facing your dark side is realizing how much strength it takes to be vulnerable. For so long, I believed strength was about holding it all together, keeping my emotions in check, staying composed, and never letting anyone see me struggle. But the truth is, real strength isn't about pretending. It's about having the courage to be seen, even when it's uncomfortable. I remember a time when I felt completely overwhelmed. I had so many responsibilities, work, family, and keeping up the image of someone who always had it all figured out. But inside, I felt exhausted. I wanted to ask for help, but part of me was terrified. What if people thought I was weak? What if they judged me for not being able to handle everything? It took me a while, but I finally reached a breaking point. I couldn't keep pretending. I sat down with someone I trusted and told them everything I had been holding in, how tired I felt, how scared I was of failing, and how much I just wanted someone to listen without trying to fix me. And you know what? Instead of judging me, they thanked me for opening up. That moment taught me something I'll never forget. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you give others permission to do the same. You create space for honesty and connection. And the more I leaned into that, the more I realized that my shadow wasn't something to fear. It was a reminder that I didn't have to do everything alone. Over time, I learned how to recognize when I was slipping back into old habits, when I started putting on a mask instead of being real. And each time, I reminded myself that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's what makes us human. I also noticed how much lighter I felt when I stopped carrying the weight of trying to be perfect. I didn't have to prove anything to anyone. I could just be myself, flaws and all. And the funny thing is, the more I embraced that side of myself, the more people felt comfortable opening up to me too. This journey of integrating your dark side isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming more of who you already are. It's about letting go of the fear that your flaws make you unworthy and realizing that they're actually what make you relatable, strong, and whole. So if you're feeling the weight of expectations or the fear of not being enough, let this be your reminder that you're not alone. The parts of you that feel messy or broken aren't there to be hidden. They're there to be healed. And the more you embrace them, the more freedom you'll find. The journey of integrating your dark side isn't about fixing yourself. It's about accepting yourself. It's about looking at every part of who you are, even the parts you've been taught to hide, and realizing that they don't make you broken. They make you human. When you stop running from your shadow, you stop living in fear. You stop feeling like you have to wear a mask just to be accepted. Instead, you learn to stand in your truth. You learn to trust yourself. And most importantly, you learn that your darkness doesn't take away your light. It makes it shine even brighter. So if you've been feeling disconnected, stuck, or unsure of who you really are, know this: you're not alone. And you don't have to keep carrying the weight of your hidden fears and emotions. You have the power to face them, to learn from them, and to transform them into something beautiful. Thank you for being here and for giving yourself this moment to reflect.